Hi 3B, we are going to now read Go West. At first, I want you to take a look at the genre of the story. Everybody put your finger on the comprehension bookmark. The genre of the story is expository text. Expository means texts give information about real people, real places, or real things. Okay, while we're reading, I want you to think about the comprehension of this text. The main idea and the details. You're going to need them for your story. Okay, everyone put your finger on before, the big B, and let's read along. Before railroads arrived, not many people lived in the Southwest. Those who did were rugged pioneers and members of Native American tribes. However, the coming of railroads brought big changes in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. In 1869, the first transcontinental railway line was completed. For the first time, railroad tracks stretched across the United States. Over the next few years, more railway lines were built. Now take a look at this map here. The map shows the first railroad routes in the Southwest. I want you to take a look at the map. That's right here. It says, the map shows the first railroad routes in the Southwest. So trace your finger along the red lines. Let's start at the top. The Northern Pacific. It goes all the way to Portland. Then the next one, that's sort of in the middle of the state, goes through Omaha, all the way to the Central Pacific. Then the next one goes through Kansas City, and as you can see, it goes along Santa Fe and then splits between the Atlantic and the Pacific and then goes down all the way to New Orleans. And as we can see on our map key here, on the yellow map here, we have red with the lines is the railroad and the dots are the cities. Okay? Now let's start over here. It says a quick trip west. Train travel helped settle the western United States. Before trains, it took 3 months to travel across the country. By train, it took only 8 days to go from New York to San Francisco. Moving west was easier, faster, and safer. More and more people were traveling west. Land was cheap, and the railroad companies made the Southwest sound great to Easterners. Now, where we live is the eastern part of the United States, so it sounds great to people like us, our ancestors who lived over here. The railroads wanted people to settle there. It was good for business. Now let's take a look at the caption at the top of page 215. It says, in the late 1800s, many people rode across the country in elaborate rail cars. Take a look at the rail cars. That may look like a place to eat breakfast or lunch or something, but that's actually a rail car. Take a look at the seats on the train, and everyone's looking out the windows, and people are even on the porch in the back. Put your finger on new towns. Before long, new communities began to form along the train lines. Some towns began as camps for railway workers. That's how the city of Odessa, Texas was established. Other older towns that had been built far from the railroad were not as lucky. They soon disappeared. Then there were lucky cities like Dallas, Texas. Dallas grew big because it was built at the crossing of several important train lines. Turn the page. Page 216. Farms and industry. Farms also sprang up because of railroads. Trains allowed farmers and ranchers to send crops and meat to the east and even to other countries. In return, trains delivered manufactured goods to the farms. This exchange turned some communities into shipping centers. Railroads also helped mining industries to grow by connecting mines with factories. That's why copper mining became very important in Arizona. Now take a look at the caption at the top next to all that cattle. Ranchers used the railroad to transport cattle in the 1800s. We use cattle for meat, and we use their skin for leather too, so they're very important. At the top of page 217, it says, a flood of people. By the end of the 1800s, the population of the West had grown a lot. Some settlers came from the eastern United States. Large numbers of immigrants came from Europe. Some people came from other countries too. Workers from Mexico and China helped build the railway lines. Many built communities in towns and cities of the Southwest. Immigrants brought their knowledge and culture to the Southwest. They brought their traditional food and music, their ways of farming and building. Thanks to the railroads, America's culture changed, and the Southwest became a region of diversity. Take a look at the bottom of page 216 in the teal section where it says terrific trains. Put your tracker finger on terrific trains. Fair Park in Dallas, Texas is the home of the Museum of the American Railroad. It is one of the greatest railroad collections in the United States. The museum lets you walk through amazing old trains, including the Big Boy. A passenger train from the 1930s has a dining car, sleeping car, and a caboose. The museum plans to move it to Frisco, Texas. There it will continue to be a place where history comes alive. So on the picture here, this is the train known as the Big Boy. Visitors to the Museum of the American Railroad in Dallas, Texas can walk through Big Boy, the world's largest steam-powered train. Now, I want you to get a separate sheet of paper, lined paper that you should find on your desk, and I want you to look at the think and compare questions that are on the top of page 217. Number 1 says, how did railroads affect the growth of towns in the Southwest? Think about it. If a bunch of people are coming from the east and they're moving to the Southwest, how did that affect the growth of the town? Okay, what do you think? Did the towns get bigger or did they get smaller? Number 2 says, why did the railroads want people to settle in the Southwest? Think about what that did to those towns when people came and settled there. Think back to Boomtown, the story that we read a few weeks ago. What happened there to that town? Question 3, how did the railroad change the Southwest? You need to go back to look at the map and go to page 215. The section of new towns might help you there. Question 4 says, based on Go West and Lone Star attractions, why do museums and state parks think it is important to display objects from the past? Think about your own experiences here. Did you like seeing objects from the past? Do you like going to museums? Why do you think that is important? Make sure you're answering in complete sentences. That means restating each question into a statement. Okay, thank you.